An October dusk was settling over Pine Ridge College. The leaves fell in lazy spirals onto the red brick paths that snaked between the campus's neo-Gothic buildings. Madison Harper adjusted her scarf as she stepped out of the Thornfield Library, the weight of 3 advanced botany textbooks heavy in her backpack. The cold Massachusetts wind bit at her face and she glanced at her watch. 8:47 p.m. The 19-year-old pulled out her phone and sent a quick text to her mother. Finished at the library, heading home now. She tucked the device into the pocket of her navy blue jacket and started toward the east parking lot where she'd left her Honda Civic. The street lamps cast jaundiced halos on the damp asphalt, creating reflections that seemed like eyes watching her from the ground. Madison walked with a determined stride, her boots echoing against the pavement as she mentally reviewed the progress of her research for Dr. Keller. The project on the propagation of endangered plants had earned her a partial scholarship, and she was determined to impress her mentor. Lately, however, something about the data wasn't adding up. A few samples had vanished from the campus greenhouse without explanation, and the logs showed discrepancies that violated academic protocol. As she reached her car, Madison noticed a figure leaning against the hood. Her heart hammered against her ribs until she recognized the familiar silhouette of Tyler Morrison, her boyfriend since freshman year. "What are you doing here, Ty?" she asked, a mix of surprise and irritation in her voice. They hadn't planned to see each other tonight. Tyler straightened up. In the lamplight, his face looked tense, with dark circles under his eyes. "We need to talk, Maddie." Madison sighed as she unlocked the car. "I'm tired. Can it wait until tomorrow?" "No," he replied, running a hand nervously through his brown hair. "It's about the money I borrowed from you last month." She tossed her books onto the back seat. "I told you I need that money back to pay my tuition, Tyler. The deadline is next week." I know," he said repeatedly, glancing over his shoulder at the nearly empty parking lot. "But there are some guys. They're pressuring me. I owe them more than I thought." Madison stopped and stared at him. "What are you talking about? What have you gotten yourself into this time?" A car drove slowly through the lot, its headlights briefly illuminating their faces. Tyler tensed visibly. "It's nothing. Just some trouble with a few bets. I can fix it." He pulled out a crumpled cigarette and lit it with trembling hands. "I just need a little more time." Madison closed her eyes for a moment, counting to 10 in her head. It wasn't the first time Tyler had found trouble, but something in his demeanor tonight felt different, more desperate. "I can't keep doing this, Ty. I have my own problems." She lowered her voice. "Besides, I think something strange is happening in the lab. The numbers don't match, and Dr. Keller has been acting weird whenever I ask about the missing samples." Tyler frowned. "What are you talking about?" Madison glanced around, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I think someone is taking plants from the greenhouse. Rare species, and the records have been doctored." "Maddie, stay out of it," Tyler said, grabbing her by the shoulders. "If you found something you weren't supposed to—" "I have a meeting with Dr. Keller tomorrow," she interrupted. "I'm going to ask him directly." The color drained from Tyler's face. "That's not a good idea. That guy has connections. Everyone knows it. He's my professor, not a mob boss," Madison replied with a nervous laugh, though a shiver ran down her spine. "Just be careful, okay?" Tyler took a deep drag from his cigarette. "And the money?" "I can't help you this time," she said firmly, opening the driver's side door. "I'm sorry, Ty, but I need to focus on my studies and figure out this lab mystery." As they said their goodbyes, Madison didn't notice the black sedan parked on the far side of the campus, nor the figure inside watching them through a pair of binoculars. Madison drove down the state highway, her mind torn between Tyler's situation and the irregularities at the lab. The darkness grew deeper the farther she got from campus, with only her headlights cutting through the night, illuminating the asphalt and the trees that flanked the route. She turned on the radio for a distraction, but the intermittent static only heightened her unease. That's when she saw the headlights behind her. At first, she paid them no mind, but after several miles, she noticed the vehicle was maintaining the exact same distance. Too close to be a coincidence, too steady to be casual. She sped up slightly. The car behind her did the same. She slowed down. The other vehicle matched her pace. Her heart began to pound. She remembered Tyler's words about the men looking for him. What if they thought she had the money? Or worse, what if this had to do with what she'd discovered in the lab? On impulse, Madison took a sharp turn onto a secondary road, an alternate route she knew to her apartment. The headlights followed. Her phone rang, an unknown number. She hesitated, then answered on speakerphone. "Madison Harper," a distorted voice said. "We know what you found." The line went dead. Madison felt the air leave her lungs. In a surge of panic, she stomped on the accelerator, taking the winding curves at a reckless speed. The headlights were still there, relentless. On the last curve before the bridge over the Merrimack River, Madison made a desperate decision. She swerved abruptly onto a forest path barely visible between the trees. Her Honda Civic wasn't built for rough terrain, but it lurched through the undergrowth, branches scratching at the blue paint until she found a clearing dense enough to hide in. She killed the engine and the lights, her breath coming in ragged gasps in the sudden darkness. She waited, her eyes fixed on the road she'd just left. The pursuing vehicle's headlights swept past on the main road. Madison exhaled, allowing herself a moment of relief. Then her phone buzzed again. The same unknown number. This time she didn't answer, but a text message arrived seconds later. "We'll find you wherever you go." Madison looked around. Only darkness and trees. She was alone, miles from any help. With trembling hands, she tried to call for emergency services, but there was no signal. The sound of a snapping twig in the distance made her freeze. Someone was approaching on foot. That was the last night anyone saw Madison Harper. 3 years later, a hiker would report finding a perfectly preserved blue Honda Civic in a remote area of the forest. The car was intact, as if it had been left there only the day before. Inside was a backpack with botany books, a dead cell phone, and a notebook with one final underlined entry. Species: endemic Orchidaceae. Estimated value $200K per specimen. Cultivation sites, coordinates in separate file. Dr. K directly involved in extraction and sale. Meeting tomorrow for confrontation. The investigation into the disappearance of Madison Harper, which had been cold for years, was about to take an unexpected turn. The forest had begun to reclaim the vehicle over those 3 years. Vines snaked around the tires and moss partially covered the hood. But the Honda Civic's metallic blue paint still glinted in the sunlight filtering through the canopy. Detective Ray Donovan crouched to examine the license plate, wiping away a layer of grime with his handkerchief. "It's Madison Harper's car, no doubt," he confirmed, rising with a grunt. At 53, his knees were a constant aching reminder of his years on the Pine Ridge police force. "Perfectly preserved," said the forensic technician Alicia Vega, as she meticulously photographed the car's interior without touching anything. "Like someone left it here yesterday, not 3 years ago." "It's strange, Ray. No signs of violence, no disarray. Her purse is on the passenger seat with her ID, credit cards, even $70 in cash. Who abandons money and documents if they're on the run?" Ray murmured, more to himself than to his partner. The Harper case had cost him months of sleep when the young woman vanished in 2010. Now in 2013, he felt a mix of anticipation and dread at what they might uncover. "There's more," Alicia added, pointing to the back seat. Her laptop untouched. Ray frowned. Someone abducts a college student but leaves valuables behind? This wasn't a robbery gone wrong. The forensic team worked for hours, documenting every inch of the vehicle and its surroundings. There were no traces of blood, no signs of a struggle. The car appeared to have been carefully parked among the trees as if Madison had planned to return. "Detective!" one of the techs called out, holding up an evidence bag. "Found this under the driver's seat." Ray examined the contents through the clear plastic, a small digital voice recorder. Back at the station, they connected the device to a speaker. After a few seconds of static, Madison Harper's voice filled the briefing room. October 13th, 2010. I've cross-referenced the official greenhouse logs with my own notes from the last 8 weeks. At least 12 specimens of endemic orchids from Peru and Ecuador are missing, each valued between $150,000 and $200,000 on the black market. Dr. Keller has been falsifying the plant mortality reports, declaring samples lost that are actually being moved. I found GPS coordinates on his computer that correspond to private properties out of state. Tomorrow. The recording cut off. A heavy silence settled over the room. "We need to talk to that professor," Ray said, pushing himself out of his chair. The Pine Ridge College campus hadn't changed much in 3 years. The same neo-Gothic buildings, the same red brick paths. Ray and his partner, Detective Mark Salazar, crossed the botanical garden toward the Biological Sciences Department. The department secretary greeted them with a puzzled expression. "Dr. Keller, I'm sorry, but he no longer works here." "Since when?" Salazar asked, taking notes. "He resigned suddenly in November of 2010, just a few weeks after that poor student disappeared. Said he'd accepted a position at a university in California." Ray and Salazar exchanged a look. "Do you have his current address?" "No, but Dr. Patel might know. She was his closest colleague." Dr. Patel turned out to be an Indian woman in her 40s, with a pristine lab coat and inquisitive eyes behind thin-rimmed glasses. "Richard Keller," she said, speaking the name as if it were something distasteful. "A brilliant botanist, but a difficult man. Always secretive about his research." "Did you notice anything unusual about his behavior before he left?" Ray asked. The doctor took a moment to answer. "Now that you mention it, he was remarkably anxious in the weeks leading up to his resignation. And there was an incident. I found him arguing heatedly with a student in the greenhouse after hours." "Do you remember who the student was?" "Tyler Morrison. He was Madison Harper's boyfriend." Tyler Morrison's apartment was in a rundown complex on the outskirts of Pine Ridge. After several knocks, a neighbor informed them that Tyler had moved out 2 years ago, leaving no forwarding address. "Seems like everyone involved conveniently disappeared," Salazar commented as they walked back to the car. "Or was made to disappear," Ray replied grimly. Back at the station, Ray spread photos and documents across the conference table. "We have Madison Harper, a brilliant student who uncovers her professor's illicit activities. We have Professor Keller, who resigns abruptly after she vanishes. And we have the boyfriend, Tyler Morrison, deep in financial trouble, who also drops off the map." "The original report flagged Morrison as the prime suspect," Salazar recalled. "He had debts to campus dealers." "Too convenient," Ray muttered. "Almost like someone wanted us to look in that direction." Ray's phone rang. It was Alicia from the forensics lab. "Detective, we found something else in the car. It was hidden in a compartment under the floor of the trunk. It looks like botanical research equipment labeled with the initials RK, not MH." Ray felt his pulse quicken. "Anything else?" "Yes, a burner phone. The battery was dead, but our techs recovered the last few messages. There's one sent on the night Madison disappeared. It says, I have proof of everything. Meet me at the agreed spot. Who was it sent to? A TM, presumably Tyler Morrison. Ray hung up and looked at Salazar. We need to find Tyler Morrison, and we need to find him now. A search of police databases yielded no recent hits on Tyler until Salazar found a hospital report from New Hampshire, 2 hours from Pine Ridge. Tyler Morrison, admitted 5 months ago for an overdose. Current address in Manchester. Works as a mechanic at a local garage. Rain was falling hard when they arrived at the small auto shop on the outskirts of Manchester. A thin man with several days of stubble was working under a lifted Chevy. When he saw the detective's car, he dropped his wrench with a clatter. Tyler Morrison, Ray said. We have some questions for you about Madison Harper. Tyler went pale. It's been 3 years. Why now? We found her car. Tyler sank onto a nearby bench, burying his face in his hands. I knew this day would come. Where have you been all this time? Salazar asked. Hiding, Tyler answered, his voice cracking. First from the dealers, then from him. From who? Dr. Keller. Tyler looked up, his eyes bloodshot. Madison found out he was stealing rare species to sell on the black market. She contacted me the night she disappeared, said she had proof and wanted to meet. And you did. I went to the meeting spot, but she never showed up. The next day, Keller confronted me. He said if I ever spoke to anyone about Madison, I would end up just like her. Ray leaned forward. Tyler, do you think Keller killed Madison? I don't think so, Detective. Tyler swallowed hard. I know he did, and I can prove it. From an inside pocket of his worn jacket, Tyler produced a USB flash drive. Madison sent me a backup of her findings. I didn't dare use it until now. Ray took the drive, its plastic casing feeling impossibly heavy in his palm. Why didn't you come to the police sooner? Tyler let out a bitter laugh. With what? The word of a junkie with debts against a respected professor? Besides, Keller has powerful connections. Millionaire buyers who don't want their trade in protected species exposed. On the drive back to Pine Ridge, Ray couldn't stop thinking about Madison Harper, a brilliant young woman silenced for uncovering the truth. And in the back of his patrol car, the small flash drive might hold the answers he had sought for 3 years. What he didn't know was that someone else had also been looking for that Drew. And now, after 3 years, all the pieces were beginning to fall into place in a deadly puzzle that was far from solved. The USB drive contained an explosive collection of evidence. Photographs of clandestine facilities, GPS coordinates of secret greenhouses, accounting ledgers of illegal sales, and most disturbingly, a coded list of buyers. It was all meticulously documented by Madison Harper, whose academic precision had become her death sentence. In the evidence room, Ray Donovan and Lieutenant Garcia examined the contents projected onto a large screen. We're talking about a multi-million-dollar business, Garcia commented, adjusting his glasses. Rare orchids, some on the verge of extinction, illegally propagated and sold to private collectors for hundreds of thousands of dollars apiece. Ray pointed to a series of bank transfers. And here's the proof. Keller receiving payments in an offshore account. Madison documented everything. What about the satellite photos? They correspond to 3 rural properties, one in Vermont, another in Maine, and a third in upstate New York. All purchased by shell companies we've linked back to Keller. Garcia rubbed his chin thoughtfully. We need search warrants for those properties, and we need to find Keller, now. Already on it, Ray confirmed. But there's something more disturbing. He pointed to a file titled Accomplices. Madison identified others involved in the operation, including someone inside our own department. The color drained from Garcia's face. Who? We don't know. She used a coding system, probably to protect herself. It just says Officer X provides protection and cover-ups. This just got complicated, Garcia muttered. We can't trust anyone until we identify this mole. There's more, Ray added, opening another folder. Madison's last entry before she disappeared, an audio file from her phone recorded barely an hour before her last known communication. He pressed play, and Madison's nervous voice filled the room. I've found proof that someone in the police department is involved. I can't go to the local authorities. Tyler's in danger too. Dr. Keller asked me to meet him at the greenhouse tonight to discuss irregularities in my research notes. I know he suspects I've found him out. I'm going to record the conversation as additional proof, and then I'm taking everything straight to the FBI tomorrow. If something happens to me, all the information is backed up on the drive I gave Tyler. Garcia and Ray exchanged grim looks. We have to find Keller and we need to protect Tyler Morrison, Garcia said. I'll send Salazar to New Hampshire to bring him into protective custody, Ray replied, already dialing his partner's number. But it was too late. On the other end of the line, Salazar's voice was tense. Ray, the workshop where Tyler works is on fire. The fire department just found a body. Dr. Richard Keller's house in California turned out to be another dead end. Neighbors reported that the man calling himself Keller had vanished over a year ago after selling the property for well below market value. It's like chasing a ghost, Salazar complained as he drove back from the morgue. The body from the workshop wasn't Tyler. It was another mechanic, and there's no trace of Keller. Ray stared out the window, watching raindrops race across the glass. Someone's cleaning house. First Madison, now they try to eliminate Tyler, and the campus dealer who was supposedly threatening Tyler, Jimmy Delgado. He disappeared 2 years ago. His body turned up in the Merrimack River. Too many coincidences, Ray murmured. His phone rang. It was Garcia. We've got something. Keller's offshore account had a transaction 72 hours ago. He bought a plane ticket to South America under an alias but used a traceable IP. Where is he now? A hotel in Boston. We have agents watching the place, and there's more. We identified Officer X. It's Roberts from Narcotics. Ray felt the air leave his lungs. Roberts had been part of the original Harper investigation, constantly pushing the theory of Tyler's guilt. I'm on my way, Ray said, signaling for Salazar to change direction. The Meridian Hotel in Boston was a discreet establishment in the financial district. Ray and Salazar met with the FBI agents who had established a perimeter. Keller's in room 412, Special Agent Diana Chen reported. Hasn't left all day. His flight to Lima is at 6 a.m. tomorrow. And Roberts? Ray asked. We picked him up an hour ago. He's singing like a canary to get a deal. Confirms Keller killed Madison when she confronted him with her findings. The tactical team prepared to enter. Ray, wearing a ballistic vest, positioned himself by the door as the SWAT team lined up. The door burst open. FBI, don't move! They shouted in unison. But the room was empty. Check the bathroom, Chen ordered. Salazar kicked the bathroom door open. Clear! He slipped through our fingers, Ray growled, slamming his fist against the wall in frustration. Wait, Chen said, pointing to the bed. There's something there. On the perfectly made bed lay a single manila envelope. Ray, wearing gloves, opened it carefully. Inside, he found a sheet of paper with a scribbled address and a brief note. Here she is. Find her. The address was in a rural area just outside of Boston. It's a trap, Salazar warned. Probably, Ray agreed, but it might also be our only lead to Madison. 3 police cruisers navigated a dirt road winding through dense woods. The rain had subsided, but the muddy ground made the approach difficult. They finally reached a secluded cabin nearly hidden by the overgrown vegetation. Proceed with extreme caution, Chen ordered over the radio. Suspect could be armed. The team methodically surrounded the property. There were no signs of life, no visible vehicles. After securing the perimeter, they entered the cabin. The interior was austere. A table, a few chairs, shelves filled with botany books. But what immediately captured everyone's attention was the far wall, covered in photographs, maps, and documents connected by red string. An obsessive mural, all centered on Madison Harper. "My God," Ray whispered, examining the images. There were photos of Madison on campus, in her apartment, even some taken from a distance while she studied in the library. He was stalking her. "Look at this," Salazar called from a corner. He had discovered a trapdoor in the floor. With weapons drawn, they pried open the door, revealing a staircase descending into darkness. The cellar was a large, fluorescent-lit space. The walls were lined with metal shelves holding dozens of exotic orchids, each meticulously labeled. "His clandestine greenhouse," Chen remarked, taking pictures of the plants. "There's a door at the back," Ray pointed out, moving forward cautiously. The metal door was secured with a padlock. The SWAT team broke it with a precise shot. What they found behind it made Ray's blood run cold. It was a small room with padded walls, a bed, a desk, and a tiny bathroom. And sitting in a chair, staring at the door as if she had been waiting for hours, was Tyler Morrison. "Finally," he said, his voice hoarse. "I thought you'd never come." Ray approached in disbelief. "Tyler, how? We thought you were dead. The workshop. Keller grabbed me 3 days ago," Tyler explained as paramedics checked him over. "He said it was time to finish what he started 3 years ago." "Where is Keller now?" Tyler managed a weak smile. "He left hours ago, but he told me something before he left, something about her." Ray's heart hammered in his chest. "Her, Madison?" "He said she was never the main target, that she only scratched the surface." Tyler paused, swallowing with difficulty. He said Madison might be alive." The forensics team worked for hours, documenting every inch of the cabin and the underground greenhouse. Ray obsessively reviewed Keller's mural, searching for any clue to Madison's whereabouts or Keller's. "Detective!" one of the technicians called out. "We found something in the ventilation system." It was another recording device similar to the one found in the Honda Civic. Back at the station, they connected the device to the speakers. The recording began with static. Then the unmistakable voice of Dr. Richard Keller filled the room. "If you're listening to this, it means you've found my Boston operation. Congratulations, but you're late, as always. By the time you decipher this message, I will be well beyond your reach. As for Madison Harper, you never really understood what happened that night. She uncovered my orchid smuggling operation. Yes, she confronted me. But what no one knows is that Madison Harper did not die that night. We made a deal. She had something I needed, and I had something she wanted desperately: freedom. Her disappearance was orchestrated, Detective Donovan. And if you want to find her, you'll have to follow the trail of the black orchids to their source. The real conspiracy is only just beginning to unfold." The recording ended, leaving everyone in the room in stunned silence. "What the hell does that mean?" Garcia finally asked. Ray looked from the photographs of Madison Harper to the images of the exotic orchids from the greenhouse. "It means this is much bigger than we ever thought," he answered slowly, "and that Madison Harper might still be alive somewhere." "Black orchids," Ray murmured, typing the words into the department's database. 3 days had passed since the discovery at the cabin, and Keller was still a ghost. Exhaustion was etched in the deep circles under the detective's eyes. He hadn't slept more than 4 hours at a time since. Agent Chen from the FBI approached with 2 cups of coffee. "Any progress?" "Maybe," Ray replied, gesturing to the screen. "The black orchid, or Coelogene pandorata, is extremely rare. It only grows naturally in a few specific regions of Indonesia and Malaysia, but there are rumors of an even rarer variety. What does this have to do with Madison Harper? Ray slid a folder toward Chen. I pulled her complete academic history. Madison wasn't just studying general botany. She specialized in endangered orchids. Her preliminary thesis was on artificial propagation methods to preserve threatened species, making her the perfect resource for Keller, Chen deduced. Exactly. But there's more. Ray opened another file. 3 months before she disappeared, Madison applied for a research grant for an expedition to Peru, specifically to a remote region where an undocumented variety of black orchid is rumored to exist. Was the grant approved? Not officially, Ray said, but we found bank transfers into an account in Madison's name, originating from a foundation we've linked to one of the buyers on Keller's coded list. Tyler Morrison entered the conference room looking remarkably recovered after his rescue. The young man seemed to have aged a decade in 3 years, with premature gray flecking his brown hair and deep lines of worry carved into his face. "Tyler," Ray greeted him. "Thanks for coming. If there's any chance Madison is alive, I'll do whatever it takes," he replied, sitting across from them. Ray showed him the documents about the Peru expedition. "Did Madison ever mention any of this to you?" Tyler studied the papers carefully. "She talked about a special project, something that could change her career forever, but she was being very secretive about it. I just thought it was academic pressure." "What about this card?" Ray slid a photograph across the table. It was a small card found among Madison's belongings in the Honda Civic. On it was written in neat handwriting, "Sombra del Inca 15S7. Tyler visibly paled. That's her handwriting, but I don't recognize what it means." Agent Chen was already searching on her tablet. Sombra del Inca could refer to a hotel in Peru. There's one in Cusco with that name. "And 1507? Ray asked. "Could be a room number, or a date, July 15th. Tyler leaned forward, suddenly agitated. "July 15th. That's Madison's birthday. She always said it was her lucky number, the 15th day of the 7th month." Ray and Chen exchanged a look. "We need to go to Peru," Ray said. "I'm going with you," Tyler stated with determination. "It's too dangerous," Chen objected. "Keller is still out there and he's already tried to kill you twice." "That's exactly why I have to go," Tyler insisted. "I know Madison better than anyone. If she's leaving clues, I'll be the one to recognize them." After a heated discussion, they agreed that Tyler would travel with them under strict protective surveillance. 3 days later, the small team touched down at Jorge Chavez International Airport in Lima, Peru. The Sombra del Inca Hotel in Cusco was a restored colonial building with ancient stone walls and carved wooden balconies. Located near the Plaza de Armas, it felt more like a museum than a hotel. "Welcome," the receptionist greeted them in perfect English. "How may I help you?" Chen showed her FBI credentials. "We're looking for information about a guest who may have stayed here. An American citizen named Madison Harper." The receptionist's brow furrowed. "I'm sorry," he said, his tone firm. "I cannot disclose information about our guests without a Peruvian court order." Ray stepped forward. "We don't need specifics, just confirmation if room 1507 has been booked recently, or if a message has been left for anyone under that number." The man hesitated but finally agreed to check. "We don't have a room with that exact number. Our hotel only has 4 floors." He scanned the system again. "However, we do have a safe deposit box, number 1507, in our luggage storage service." "Who rented it?" Chen asked eagerly. "It was rented 3 years ago by an American woman. She paid in advance for 5 years. "The name?" The receptionist consulted the screen. "Elizabeth Morrison." Tyler stifled a gasp. Elizabeth is Madison's middle name, and she used my last name. We need access to that box, Ray said. I'm sorry, but only the person who rented it can open it, unless, of course, you have a Peruvian court order. As they discussed their options in the lobby, an older woman approached them discreetly. Excuse me, she said in a low voice. I couldn't help but overhear. I worked here when that young American woman rented the box. Do you remember Madison Harper? Ray asked, showing her a photograph. The woman nodded. Yes, though she introduced herself as Elizabeth. She seemed frightened, always looking over her shoulder. She told me that if anyone ever came asking specifically for that box and mentioned black orchids, I was to give them this. From her pocket, she extracted an old-fashioned key wrapped in a small piece of paper. The paper contained a single sentence. The truth is in Paititi. Paititi, Ray repeated, confused. It's a local legend, the woman explained. The lost city of the Incas, supposedly hidden somewhere in the Amazon rainforest. Many explorers have died searching for it. Inside the safe deposit box, they found a lab notebook, a USB drive, and a detailed map with specific markings in the Amazon region of northern Peru, near the border with Ecuador. That night, in a secure room provided by the U.S. consulate in Cusco, they examined the contents. The notebook revealed the true scale of what Madison had discovered. This is incredible, Chen murmured, flipping through the pages. Madison didn't just stumble upon rare orchid smuggling. She found evidence of something far more valuable. The notes detailed how certain black orchids contained a unique chemical compound with extraordinary anti-cancer properties. Preliminary tests suggested it could revolutionize oncology treatments, potentially worth billions to the pharmaceutical industry. Keller wasn't just trafficking rare plants for collectors, Chen continued. He was secretly selling samples to pharmaceutical companies for unregulated research. And Madison found out, Ray added. What I don't understand, Tyler interjected, is why disappear? Why not just report it? The answer came when they reviewed the USB drive. It contained covert recordings of meetings between Keller and various pharmaceutical executives as well as government officials, both American and Peruvian. The conspiracy was too big, Ray realized. It wasn't just Keller. There were politicians, officials, entire corporations involved. If Madison had brought this evidence forward officially, they would have silenced her permanently. Chen finished grimly. So she faked her own disappearance, Tyler concluded, a mixture of pain and hope in his voice, to protect herself and keep investigating. And the map, Ray pointed out, tells us where she might be now. This remote region of the Amazon, likely continuing her research on these orchids, far from the reach of Keller and his associates. But why leave clues for us to find her now? Chen wondered. The answer arrived unexpectedly when Ray's phone rang. It was Garcia from Pine Ridge. Ray, Keller's turned up, dead. They found him in a Lima hotel this morning. Apparent suicide, but we're checking. After hanging up, Ray shared the news. It makes sense, Chen said. With Keller dead, the most immediate danger to Madison is gone. It might be safe for her to surface now, especially with the evidence she's gathered. But the other conspirators are still out there, Ray warned. The pharmaceutical companies, the corrupt officials. All the more reason to find her first, Tyler stated, studying the map with determination. 2 days later, the small group soared over the dense Amazon jungle in a chartered helicopter. Below them, an endless green ocean stretched to the horizon, broken only by winding brown rivers. According to the map, it should be near that mountain formation, Ray told the Peruvian pilot, pointing to a series of vegetation-covered peaks. As they drew closer, they spotted a small clearing that didn't appear on any official maps. In its center, almost imperceptible from the air, were wooden structures camouflaged beneath the tree canopy. There, the pilot pointed. There's a space just big enough to land west of the settlement. With their hearts pounding, they descended toward the unknown. Would they finally find Madison Harper, or just more unanswered questions? As they landed and cautiously approached the camp, they were met by several researchers in field gear, clearly surprised by their arrival. In the center of the group, a woman in her early 30s stepped forward. Her once light brown hair was now darker and cut short. Her skin was tanned from years under the tropical sun, but her eyes, those unmistakable green eyes, looked directly at Tyler. "You're earlier than I expected," said Madison Harper in a voice Tyler thought he would never hear again. Time seemed to stand still. Tyler remained frozen, as if any movement might shatter the image of Madison before him. 3 years of searching, of guilt, of unanswered questions, all culminating in this moment. "Madison," he finally whispered, his voice barely audible over the slowing whir of the helicopter blades. She took a step forward, her expression a complex mix of emotions, relief, apprehension, and something deeper that none of the newcomers could quite decipher. "Tyler," she replied, her voice firmer, more mature than they remembered. "Detective Donovan. And I assume you're with the FBI," she added, looking at Chen. Ray stepped forward, professional but visibly moved. "Madison Harper, it's been a long time. 3 years, 2 months, and 17 days to be exact," she answered, a tense smile gracing her lips. "Follow me. It's not safe to talk out here." She led them down a barely visible path through the dense vegetation. Up close, the camp was more sophisticated than it appeared from the air. Wooden structures were perfectly integrated into the natural surroundings. Solar panels were discreetly placed among the foliage, and an ingeniously designed rainwater collection system was in place. They entered a central cabin, larger than the others. The interior was organized like a field laboratory with scientific equipment, microscopes, and shelves filled with carefully labeled botanical specimens. "Welcome to the Paititi Research Station," Madison said, closing the door behind them. "My home for the last 3 years." "You've been here this whole time?" Tyler asked, still struggling to process the reality of her standing before him. "Not at first. For the first 6 months, I was constantly on the move, never more than 2 weeks in the same place." Madison sat on a high stool, gesturing for them to do the same. "Until I found this place, remote, uncharted, perfect for disappearing, and for finding what I was looking for." "The black orchids," Ray deduced. Madison nodded, her eyes lighting up with a scientist's passion. "Not just any black orchid, a specific variety that only grows in this region. The natives call it the tear of the moon. It contains a compound that could change modern medicine as we know it." "We were just beginning to understand the scope of your discovery," Chen commented. "The anti-cancer properties." "It's much more than that," Madison interrupted, standing to retrieve a notebook. "The compound has potential for cellular regenerative treatments. It could revolutionize the management of degenerative diseases, from Alzheimer's to muscular dystrophy." She placed the open notebook on the table, revealing complex molecular diagrams and charts of experimental results. This is why Keller and his partners were so desperate to control the discovery. It was never just about the value of rare plants to collectors. That was simply the cover. The real prize was always the pharmaceutical compound. "Why fake your death?" Ray asked directly. "You could have gone to the authorities, to the press." Madison laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "Like Dr. Mercer from MIT did, or Dr. Sanchez from Johns Hopkins. They both tried to expose similar operations. Mercer was professionally discredited, lost his position, and ended up committing suicide a year later. Sanchez had a very convenient car accident. She pulled a tablet from a drawer and showed them news files on both cases. Keller made it very clear what would happen if I talked. The night I disappeared, he confronted me in the greenhouse. I had all the proof of his illegal activities, but he had something I didn't expect. What? Tyler asked. Knowledge about the orchid. Information that wasn't in any scientific literature. Exact locations where it grew wild, and most importantly, he had viable samples. Madison paused. He offered me a deal, my silence in exchange for access to the research. And you accepted? Ray concluded, his tone non-judgmental. Not immediately. I told him I needed time to think. That night, when I left campus, one of his associates tried to abduct me. I managed to escape, but I knew my life in Pine Ridge was over. I had two choices: run and hide forever, or leverage the situation to continue the research on my own terms. And you chose the second, Chen said. Madison nodded. I contacted Keller from a burner phone. I proposed a new deal. I would disappear, leaving false trails that would temporarily incriminate Tyler. You what? Tyler exclaimed, rising to his feet. I'm sorry, Tyler. I knew the police would eventually clear you for lack of evidence. In the meantime, it would buy me time to get established here and begin my independent research. And Keller agreed? Ray asked, skeptical. It suited him. My disappearance without a body would keep the police busy for years. He would provide me with funds and equipment through intermediaries, and I would share my scientific findings while maintaining control over how they were used. A deal with the devil, Chen murmured. Madison looked at her directly. When you're dealing with a discovery that could save millions of lives, moral compromises become complicated. Ray rubbed his temples, processing the information. But something changed. You left clues for us to find you now. Keller broke our agreement, Madison explained. I discovered he was selling preliminary versions of the compound to pharmaceutical labs without my knowledge. They were conducting human trials without proper safety protocols. People died. Her voice cracked slightly, the first sign of vulnerability since their reunion. When I confronted him, he threatened to reveal my location to the wrong people. People who would rather the research never see the light of day. And now Keller is dead, Ray said. Apparent suicide in Lima. Madison didn't seem surprised. It wasn't suicide. The same people who backed him eliminated him. Keller was becoming unstable, making impulsive decisions, like trying to have Tyler killed. Tyler moved closer to Madison, hesitating for a moment before speaking. All this time, why didn't you contact me? Why let me believe you were dead? Madison's expression softened. At first it was for security. Then, the longer it went on, the harder it became. How could I explain what I'd done, the choices I made? She paused, and I was afraid that if I contacted you, they could trace you to me. An uncomfortable silence filled the room. Chen finally broke it. Why leave the clues now? Why risk being discovered? Because we're in the final phase of the research, Madison replied, her professional tone returning. We've successfully synthesized the compound and verified its therapeutic properties. It's time for the world to know about this discovery, but I need protection to do it right. Keller's death created a window of opportunity. She led the group to another section of the lab where several researchers were working with sophisticated equipment. In the center, a glass case held what looked like ebony black orchids with delicate silver edges on their petals. The team you see here is made up of scientists who, like me, were forced to disappear because of their discoveries. Botanists, biochemists, pharmacologists, all of us working off the corporate grid. A kind of scientific resistance, Ray remarked, impressed. Precisely. And now we need to bring our research to the world, but on our terms. No restrictive corporate patents, no inflated prices that would make the treatment inaccessible to most. That's why I left the clues. We need the protection of the U.S. government and a secure channel to publish our findings simultaneously across multiple scientific platforms before corporate interests can suppress them. Chen nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. The FBI can provide witness protection and coordinate with international agencies, but we'll need all the documentation, all the proof of the conspiracy you've uncovered. I have everything, Madison assured them. Every conversation, every transaction, every threat, enough to bring down several pharmaceutical corporations and expose dozens of corrupt officials. As they continued to discuss logistics, Tyler slipped away toward the lab's entrance, needing a moment to process everything. Madison noticed and, excusing herself, followed him outside. The Amazon sun was beginning to set, painting the jungle in hues of gold and red. They stopped beside a small stream that flowed near the camp. "Tyler," Madison began, the self-assured scientist giving way to the vulnerable woman she once was. "I know what I did. It's unforgivable. Letting you believe I was dead. Letting them make you a suspect." "I nearly died, Madison," he interrupted, his voice quiet but heavy with emotion. "Not just from Keller and his thugs. I nearly died inside, believing I'd lost you, blaming myself for not protecting you." "I know," she whispered, tears finally forming in her eyes. "And I will live with that guilt for the rest of my life. But at that moment it felt like the only choice. This discovery could save millions of lives. I had to make impossible decisions." Tyler studied her, searching for the Madison he knew 3 years ago in this stronger, harder woman who stood before him. "Was it worth it?" he asked at last. "All this sacrifice, all this pain, was it worth it?" Madison glanced toward the lab where her team continued to work tirelessly, then back at Tyler. "That depends on what we do now," she answered honestly, "on whether we can ensure this discovery benefits those who need it instead of becoming another tool for corporate greed." Tyler nodded slowly. "Then let's make sure it does." As they walked back to the lab where Ray and Chen were already organizing the secure extraction of the scientific team and all their research, neither of them noticed the small camera hidden among the tropical foliage, nor the surveillance drone silently receding over the treetops, transmitting every word, every image to parties keenly interested in the events at Paititi Station. The battle for control of the Black Orchids was only just beginning. Night descended on the Amazon rainforest, bringing with it a symphony of nocturnal sounds and a penetrating darkness broken only by the dim lights of the camp. The team had agreed to leave at dawn when the helicopter would return, to fly them to Cusco, where a U.S. government plane would be waiting. Madison and her fellow scientists meticulously packed their samples and data while Ray and Chen established a security perimeter. Tyler helped load equipment, every interaction with Madison charged with unresolved tension and unanswered questions. "Something's not right," Ray murmured to Chen as they swept the perimeter. "It's too easy." Chen nodded. "I was thinking the same thing. If these corporate interests are as powerful as Madison suggests, they won't just let us walk away with all this." A snap of a twig in the surrounding undergrowth put Ray on high alert. He drew his weapon instinctively. "Did you hear that?" Before Chen could answer, the camp lights went out simultaneously, plunging everything into absolute darkness. Seconds later, chaos erupted. Figures in advanced tactical gear emerged from the jungle, moving with military precision. They weren't firing indiscriminately, they seemed to have specific targets. "To the lab!" Ray shouted, realizing they were after the samples and research data. Madison had already activated an emergency protocol. When Ray and Chen burst into the lab, they found the scientists systematically destroying equipment and samples. "What are you doing?" Chen asked, horrified. "Security protocol," Madison explained with surprising calm. "Better to destroy everything than let it fall into the wrong hands." "And the research?" Ray demanded. Madison pointed to a young scientist inserting a small memory card into a satellite device. "Our entire research is being uploaded right now to secure servers in 5 different countries. And this," she said, handing Ray a small metal capsule, "contains viable cultures of the orchid, the only sample that will be left." The attackers were methodically surrounding the camp. They were running out of time. "Is there an escape route?" Chen asked. "The river," one of the scientists replied. "We have canoes hidden 200 meters from here. We can navigate to the next settlement." Tyler, who had been watching from a window, turned to them. "We won't all make it. They need a distraction." Madison's eyes met his, an immediate understanding flowing between them. "No," she said firmly. "No more sacrifices." "It's not a sacrifice," Tyler replied. "It's a debt I have to pay." Before they could stop him, Tyler grabbed a backpack filled with lab equipment and bolted out the back door, running in the opposite direction of the river. "Tyler!" Madison screamed, but Ray held her back. "He's buying us time. Don't waste it." The group moved stealthily toward the river, listening as the attackers reoriented their search toward the sound of Tyler's flight. They reached the canoes just as gunfire and explosions echoed from the camp. "The research is safe," Madison whispered as the canoes slipped silently into the dark current. "But at what cost?" Ray clutched the metal capsule in his hand. "This isn't over. We can still make it worth it." As the jungle enveloped them in its protective cloak, the flames from the camp illuminated the night sky behind them, marking the end of one chapter and the uncertain beginning of another in the battle for the Black Orchids. Dawn found the fugitives in a small riverside village, a 4-hour journey from their destroyed camp. The local villagers, accustomed to discretion from their occasional dealings with Madison's team, offered them refuge without question. Madison hadn't spoken a word since their escape. She sat apart from the group, her gaze lost in the direction they had come from, as if she could see through the dense jungle all the way back to Tyler. Ray approached, offering her a steaming cup of coffee. "We need to move soon. I've contacted the consulate in Lima. They have an extraction team heading this way." "Any word on Tyler?" she asked, her eyes fixed on the horizon. "Nothing confirmed," Ray answered cautiously. "But we haven't received any reports of casualties either." Madison finally looked at him. "You know as well as I do that means nothing if they took him alive." "Tyler's smart," Ray interjected. "And he had a plan. Trust him." Chen joined them, her satellite phone in hand. "We have confirmation. The servers received all the research data. It's already being analyzed by trusted scientists on 3 continents." A spark of hope briefly lit Madison's eyes. "And the capsule?" Ray pulled it from his inner pocket. The small metal cylinder, no bigger than a lipstick tube, contained the future of their research. "Safe. We need to identify who attacked us," Chen said. "Based on the gear and the tactical precision, they weren't simple mercenaries." "Pharmalux," Madison answered without hesitation. "I recognize their tactics. It's the same group that tried to acquire my research through Keller. A pharmaceutical corporation with its own private security force." The sound of engines interrupted their conversation. Everyone tensed. But soon they saw a villager running toward them, making reassuring gestures. "They are friends," translated Dr. Reyes, one of the Peruvian scientists on Madison's team. "He says it is the Peruvian police." 2 speedboats docked at the small pier. From the first, a man in an official uniform descended, whom Ray recognized immediately. Miguel Santana, Peruvian police liaison to the FBI. Detective Donovan, Santana greeted him. We have little time. We've intercepted communications. Pharmalux has deployed more teams in the region. As they boarded the boats, Madison stopped suddenly. We can't leave without Tyler. Madison, Ray began. No, she cut him off firmly. I already abandoned him once. I won't do it again. Santana exchanged a look with Chen before speaking. Ms. Harper, we have information on your associate. He was spotted at a Pharmalux camp 10 kilometers upriver. He's alive, but they're moving him. To where? To their main facility in Lima. Apparently, they believe he has access to your research. Madison nodded, her expression shifting from worry to resolve. Then we're going to Lima. The trip to the Peruvian capital was tense and silent. During the journey, Madison and the scientists devised a plan while Ray and Chen coordinated with the Peruvian authorities. We can't just storm the headquarters of a multinational corporation, Chen warned as they discussed strategies. Madison's gaze was firm. No, but we can give them exactly what they want. What do you mean? Ray asked. Me, Madison replied. They want me and my research. We'll give them a chance to get both. The plan was risky but simple. Madison would offer herself in an exchange, her for Tyler. Meanwhile, the research data, now public on multiple servers, would make it impossible for Pharmalux to maintain a monopoly on the discovery. It's too dangerous, Ray objected. We're no longer just talking about science or about my life, Madison countered. This is about Tyler, my team, and the millions of people who could benefit from this treatment. It's worth the risk. That night, from an anonymous hotel in Lima, Madison Harper made a call that would change the course of everything. I have something you want, she said to the Pharmalux contact. Let's make a deal. The Pharmalux headquarters in Lima rose like a monolith of glass and steel in the financial district. Its respectable facade concealed operations that repeatedly crossed the line of legality. Madison, dressed in a formal suit that made her look more like an executive than a fugitive scientist, walked with determination toward the main entrance. In her hand, she carried a metal briefcase supposedly containing viable samples of the black orchid and exclusive research data. We've got you covered, Ray murmured through the tiny earpiece hidden in her ear. The detective and a joint team of FBI agents and Peruvian police were maintaining surveillance from vehicles and strategic positions around the building. Remember, Chen added over the same channel, we need a recorded confession. Without that, it's just your word against a multi-billion-dollar corporation's. Madison took a deep breath before announcing herself at the reception desk. Madison Harper to see Mr. Vickers. Minutes later, she was escorted to the top floor. There, in a conference room with panoramic views of Lima, Lawrence Vickers, the CEO of Pharmalux, awaited her. He was a man in his 60s with perfectly coiffed silver hair and a smile that never reached his eyes. Dr. Harper, he greeted with false cordiality. Or should I say the ghost scientist, your death was quite convincing. Where is Tyler? Madison asked directly. Vickers made a casual gesture, and a side door opened. 2 guards escorted Tyler in. He showed clear signs of mistreatment but walked on his own. His eyes lit up when he saw Madison. You're alive? He whispered, as if needing to confirm it for himself. As we agreed, Madison said to Vickers, ignoring the urge to run to Tyler. Him for the research. Vickers smiled. Show me what you've brought first. Madison opened the briefcase with deliberate slowness. Inside were carefully labeled vials and digital storage drives. My entire life's work for the last 3 years, she explained. The propagation method, the compound's molecular structure, the synthesis protocols. Vickers examined the contents with barely disguised greed. You know, Richard Keller made a fatal error allowing me to continue this research independently. Was that before or after you ordered his removal? Madison asked with calculated coldness. Vickers looked surprised, but then he smirked. Business is business, Dr. Harper. Keller became an unacceptable risk, just like your little camp in the jungle. Why go to such lengths to suppress a treatment that could save millions of lives? Madison pressed, needing the confession. Save lives? Vickers laughed. It's about controlling lives, Dr. Harper. A treatment like this, administered continuously instead of as a definitive cure, creates lifelong customers, billions in sustained profits. As he spoke, Madison noticed movement in the hallways visible through the glass walls. The extraction team was moving into position. It's too late, Vickers, Madison said. As we speak, my complete research is being published simultaneously in scientific journals around the world. The data on the black orchids is no longer exclusive. Vickers' face twisted into a mask of fury. Impossible. We destroyed your camp, your samples, but not my foresight, Madison replied. And by the way, you've just confessed to multiple felonies. This building is surrounded. As if to confirm her words, the main door burst open and Ray Donovan entered, followed by armed agents. Lawrence Vickers, you are under arrest for conspiracy, destruction of federal property, kidnapping, and complicity in murder. Everything happened in a dizzying rush after that. Vickers made a failed attempt to escape. The security guards were neutralized, and Tyler was finally able to join Madison in a desperate embrace. You did it, he whispered into her hair. We did it, she corrected. 3 months later, Madison Harper testified before a U.S. congressional committee. Her story had captured the world's attention. The scientist who faked her own death to protect a revolutionary discovery, taking on one of the most powerful pharmaceutical corporations on the planet. The compound derived from the black orchid is now being developed under an open license, Madison explained to the Congress members. No single entity can claim exclusivity. The treatments will be available at cost to developing nations. In the audience, Tyler watched with pride. Beside him sat Ray Donovan and Diana Chen, who had been instrumental in dismantling the web of corruption that stretched from Pharmalux to government officials in several countries. Will you be returning to academic research, Dr. Harper? One of the Congress members asked. Madison smiled, glancing briefly at Tyler. In fact, I've already accepted a position at Pine Ridge College. We're establishing a botanical research center specializing in endangered species with medicinal potential. And the facility will be named the Madison Harper Initiative, the committee chairman added. Actually, she corrected gently, it will be called the Harper Morrison Research Center, because some stories, like some rare plants, need the right environment to flourish, even in the most adverse circumstances. As the hearing concluded, Tyler moved to Madison's side, lacing his fingers through hers. Ready to go home? He asked. Madison nodded, thinking of the long, tortuous path that had brought them back to the beginning, but with a completely new perspective. Ready to start over? She replied, knowing that some disappearances like hers are merely the prelude to a more meaningful return.